Wow, what a time to be alive. Today we have the Ethereum ETF, right? And we have the bill, the crypto bill that's being voted on. Now, the Ethereum ETF is expected to be sometime this week, maybe even next week. So we'll see about that. And the bill, the House is supposed to vote on the bill. I have something extremely funny. You got to watch this. XRP community, especially. Look at this. You got to look at Maxine Waters and her face. I mean, people like her, they just need to ultimately retire. They've been there forever. They don't understand crypto at all. But they're not supposed to understand it. The reason why is because they are deep state central banking puppets. They don't need to understand crypto because they're puppets, right? They are being controlled. They're basically an instrument of the central bank. Crypto is a threat to the central banking system, to their fiat debt-based enslavement, right? So, crypto is a threat to that system, and they cannot allow that system to flourish. And once you start passing bills, regulation, that's when crypto becomes that's basically when they validate crypto, right? If you're passing a bill on crypto, you're validating what crypto is. Because before it was just Bitcoin and some altcoins in the wild, wild west on these different exchanges. Now it's serious, serious business, right? And they understand how big it's getting. Multi-trillion-dollar market cap. They realize, this is a bad thing. But the problem is if they go on attacking, right? If the Federal Reserve central banking system takes out their minions like Elizabeth Warren and Maxine Waters and Gary Gensler and all the Democrats, it seems like it's mostly Democrats. When they set them upon their onslaught against crypto, they have to wait a minute, we got to hold back here because, we're stuck. And it's like, well, why? Because we have an election coming up, right? We need Joe Biden to win as president. We can't seem like we're anti-crypto. We can't seem like we hate crypto. We got to act like we like it, right? Even though our puppet master, right, the central bank, even though they're telling us not to, right? So they have to sort of play chess, right? They have to seem like they like it, and at the same time they don't like it, right? It's all BS. But on this bill particularly, they are coming out full force against it, right? But it's expected to pass. So we'll see about that. Listen to this.
And register. So I believe part of this
Hilarious.
bill is to bring clarity to that registration. The XRP case, Ripple,
Oh yeah.
which was litigated in federal court, came back and created more confusion, actually, in our markets by protecting institutional investors and not protecting retail.
Right, so
Wow.
these clips, guys, sometimes are
The look on her face says it all. I mean, can you believe it? She's looking at him like, boy, please. You cannot be serious. And she doesn't even understand what crypto is. Like I said, she doesn't need to. She's a puppet. But let's see. Here's another clip.
is truly, I believe, a wives' tale, because there's no real way to get that done. But listen in.
We have these crypto companies who have refused to register. They're operating against the law.
Is there currently any way for a digital asset commodity company to currently register with either the SEC or the CFTC?
No.
No. Do we or do we not create an opportunity and, in fact, a requirement for those registries to take place?
Yes, we do. This bill is directly responsive to President Biden's call in his executive order for a regulatory gap being closed.
This is a security, this is a commodity, this is a commodity, this is, it wouldn't be such a problem. But this is a comprehensive piece of legislation that undermines the authority of the SEC that has been developed, working, and protecting us as a cop on the block for 90 years.
Whoa, that is the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my entire life. The SEC has been protecting us for the last 9 years. I mean, right off the bat, you understand that's BS. I mean, They're going after, right? Where were they when FTX collapsed? They didn't protect everybody there, right? And why are they going after Coinbase? Coinbase is going to the SEC, knocking on the door, saying, "Hey, what do I got to do? What do I need to do to make this right?" The SEC goes, well, just come back next week, or do this and do that, and then they do it, and then they still get sued. Why? Because it's all about enforcement, right? They're going by enforcement, not going by the framework of what regulation actually is supposed to do. So keep listening.
So I disagree that this is a simple bill that just says this is a commodity and this is a security.
Well, Coinbase, that company went to the SEC and filed an S1, which is a registration statement to go public. And yet they've been under constant scrutiny by the SEC, despite their best efforts time and time again to go in and register. So I believe part of this bill is to bring clarity to that registration. The XRP case, Ripple, which was litigated in federal court, came back and created more confusion, actually, in our markets by protecting institutional investors and not protecting retail.
Right, so
That the preferred currency of these criminals is crypto.
yeah, actually, the preferred currency throughout numerous reports is fiat.
Is that Bitcoin is not a security, and it is not subject to SEC regulation. Clearly, the Commodities Exchange Act of 1922 and the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 did not spell out exactly when is a digital asset a security and when is it not. And so that has created a gray area, and unfortunately in that gray area, the SEC has rushed in with quite aggressive and quite expansive regulatory actions. We are the only G10 country that has not addressed these issues, and now is the time for us to act.
So one thing he did hit on, only G10 country not supporting this. Of course,
That's to your question. Let's see. Major and have intentionally chosen not to register. They've broken the law already with the SEC. One of the things they want this bill to do, in addition to everything else it's doing, is to make sure that they're not held accountable for the laws they have already broken. This is the SEC at work, and the efforts we must support. The SEC really needs even more staff.
I shouldn't
to deal
laugh.
with the criminal fraud of these crypto companies.
And I'm grateful that they caught the people and that they've been punished, but it seems like there could have been some anticipatory action. But I'd be interested in Mr. Hill's response.
FTX did have a U.S. derivative subsidiary here in America, and guess what? It was regulated by the CFTC, and guess what? It was the only part of FTX that did not fail.
so he is exactly right. Of course, Maxine, again, not necessarily.
So anyway, those are the clips. Shout out to Paul Barron. Definitely go subscribe to his channel. Thank you for allowing me to steal some of your content so that I can talk about it. But I think it's really needs to be talked about. I talk about basically charts all day long. So I want to jump into, other things from time to time. And this is one of them for sure. I mean, doesn't it seem weird that Maxine Waters was like the only person in that room that just didn't really fit what the whole narrative, right, is with crypto? I mean, it's like she's not even coherent on what is actually going on. She's just being fed a script. I mean, you got to think, like, these old not just her. I'm not just bagging on her. I'm talking about all of them. All of these old politicians, right? Some of them are very smart. Some of them are very intelligent. But a lot of them just don't understand the technology of what crypto is and the innovation, right? The United States has to lead this frontier. We can't allow China to lead it. We can't allow Russia to lead it. We can't allow other countries. I'm an American, and I would love to see America lead this crypto innovation efforts, and so far it has pretty profoundly. Now, with that being said, it's going to take a global effort for this to work, right? And a lot of times countries go in if the United States goes in, and then people say, well, how come crypto's down? The only one is against it is the United States, so it seems, right, at the moment. But a lot of countries are waiting for the signal. If the USA comes in and passes this bill, remember, it's got to pass through the House, it's got to pass through the Senate, and then the president has to sign it into law. Now, President Biden said that he wouldn't veto it. That doesn't mean he doesn't agree with it, right? The Democrats are trying to, protect themselves from Now, remember, if this was 2 years ago, they would have totally shot it down. But since we're coming up to an election, the crypto crowd in the United States is pretty big, right? There's a lot of people that own crypto, a lot of very, very intelligent people like you, right? And people people get it, right? So, going back to the other countries, as soon as we pass the bill, as soon as the United States brings validity, right, it validates what crypto is, then the other countries will follow suit, right? And they'll start passing bills and making laws around crypto. And there already are, right? A lot of them aren't even waiting for the US. A lot of them are already doing their own thing. I mean, some countries make it legal tender. I think eventually Bitcoin will be legal tender. I think eventually a lot of cryptos will be legal tender. How's that going to work? I don't know. But look at Donald Trump. What did he just say? He came out and he accepts crypto, right? He accepts XRP. He accepts Bitcoin. He accepts, I don't know how many different ones, but, he accepts crypto. That's basically what we wanted to hear, right? He also said that, these other countries, we can't allow the innovation to get to leave the United States and go to these other countries. So we must act and protect a lot of these very prestigious crypto companies, right? I mean, you're talking about AI, you're talking about payments, you're talking about layer ones, layer twos, whatever crypto technology you want to talk about, right? NFTs, gaming, all that stuff. We want that innovation here. Why? Because it builds the economy. It drives the economy, right? The US dollar is basically subjected to one thing, right? But when you start opening different blockchains and different protocols, you start unlocking oceans of value and different sources of liquidity that you really never had before. And I mean, just look at Theta, for example, right? Look at what Theta does. Look what Theta Fuel does. They're actually trying to improve people's lives through the efforts of streaming, and that's, to me, that's just the beginning, right? But what is it doing? It's actually helping the economy, right? I mean, a lot of people don't have access to bank accounts. A lot of people don't have access to certain types of things. And then even the people who do have access, it's better technology, right? If I'm going to send $1,000 to someone in China or someone in France, it's going to cost, I got to go through my bank, I got to wire the money, it's going to take time, it's going to cost a lot. Now multiply that by 1 billion, right? Why would they do that? And they say, okay, well, now we need, we like crypto, right? We're going to do the CBDC. So President Trump came out and said, no, we don't want that. I mean, if we're going to do CBDC, it cannot be a surveillance state. It can't be used as a weapon, right? So it's going to be very interesting how this all plays out. But I just kind of wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. I thought it was real sad than anything that our congressmen and women, a lot of them are just doing what they're told, right? They know what's right, and they know what's wrong. They know what's real. They know what's fake. But at the end of the day, it's not about what they do. It's about people controlling them as their instrument for a higher bidding at the end of the day. So we have Bitcoin here at 69,600. Took a bit of a big dump. I mean, we were looking pretty good this morning, and then bam, we got dumped on. I don't know what was that for. So very interesting price action, to say the least. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 points on the bottom and 3 points on top, which basically means, it's testing more support than it is testing resistance, which kind of weighs a little bit on the bearish side. You're starting to, cup around here, cup around here, cup around here. So you're cupping into the support, cupping into the support. So it's really being tested. I don't know when the bill is going to be passed. It should be passed today, but I think it could be already priced in, right? I mean, people don't sell or buy the news, they sell the news. So if the rumor is that it passed, maybe this whole thing, right, was preempting of this whole thing right here. So basically, from the move down from 60,000 all the way up towards 71,000, a $10,000 move already happened. Maybe that was being priced in ahead of the Ethereum ETF, ahead of the crypto bill being passed. Just like inflation, right? Remember back in the day, I should say back in the day, but it's still happening now, all of the inflation that we were dealing with. So nobody was talking about inflation down here. Nobody, right? Especially in here. But guess what? The whales were accumulating. I know I was, and I'm not a whale, not even close, but I was a little shrimp or whatever they call it. Just a little guy coming down here trying to get what he can and understanding, inflation and things like that ahead. And that's when I was really on the gold and silver road, listening to guys like Bix Weir, listening to people like Gerald Celente and Gregory Mannarino, and understanding the problems in the economy and wanting to protect my wealth and my purchasing power by betting against the debt and becoming my own central bank. And how do you do that? You got to buy anti-debt instruments, commodities, right? Like gold and silver, like crypto. So that's basically what I've been doing. And this whole run up here, right, was running up because of the inflation, but it wasn't being talked about. It wasn't until we got up here, that's when the news released. That's when everybody started talking about it, right? From here to here, this big leg right here, from 10,000 all the way up to 25,000, even close to 30, nobody was really talking about it on the mainstream media. It wasn't until we got way up here. But you see how they front run that. So once the inflation narrative came out, that's when retail got trapped. That's when retail started buying in here, right? That's when Elon Musk, Saturday Night Live, Laser Highs, Diamond Hands, right? Inflation to the moon, money printer, right? So, but they didn't realize, right, that this whole move was already priced in because of the inflation. That's why, people say, oh, charts don't work. Charts actually tell you what's going to happen before it happens. Not all of the time. It doesn't tell you what's going to happen, right? So for example, if let's say we had a big run up, right? And let's say, we had World War III or something, and then the market just dumped. Everybody would blame it on that. But in reality, you had 5 waves. You already broke structure, right? It already told you that you were going to pull back. It does, the news event is basically assigning a narrative to why the price is doing what the price is doing. Now, it does have a lot of effect, right? When people, buy crypto or sell crypto based off of certain events that happen. But it's really, the guys with most of the money, right? They already placed their bets way before any news event occurs, because they know, they have insider information, and unfortunately we don't. But the best insider information we have is the actual chart, right? So what is the chart saying? Well, based off Elliott wave, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's wave 1. We have an A, B, C. That's wave 2. We have another 1, 2. Now, this is where it gets tricky. This could be 3, 4, and 5. Or we're not done yet. So, meaning this whole thing could be 4. Right? And we still have wave 5 to go. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for. Because at the end of the day, we're either in a wave 4 correction of the higher degree, right? So this would be 1, 2, 3, and now we're in wave 4, and then we get wave 5. If this is a wave 4, then it should be about as big as this, right? Which means it's going to be a double correction, right? Like a zigzag or something where, you have an ABC, then you get another ABC, then you get another ABC down. So a more complex correction before we go higher, right? Maybe this is a big fake out. Everybody's getting bullish. We got the Ethereum ETF. We got the crypto bill coming. Everybody's bullish. Everybody's leveraging long. And then bam, it gets taken out. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's how they like to play when everybody least expects it. Now, I'm leaning more towards bullish because the chart is saying we're bullish. But just because it's saying it today doesn't mean it could say it tomorrow. Now, my whole thing, right, my main idea has been we're going higher. So the big thing is how we get to that higher stage, right? Do we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're in some type of ABC where we go up, right? A rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways breakout. Or do we still need another wave higher, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? We get up to your 80, 90K, and then we kind of flag out for a 4th wave, a bigger wave, before we come up and hit the high for a 5th wave, right? Something like that, right? And then that whole thing, right, would be 1, 2. This would be 3, 4. And you can notice how wave 2 matches up, with wave 4, right? And then we get that hit to the high. So it appears that we're in the middle of the 3rd wave. So the question is, right, because all we have right now is an A, B, C. That's all we have. We have 3 waves. We have a 5, a 3, and a 5. So technically it's only 3. We need another hit to the high. We need to pull back, and then we need a 5th wave, really, to confirm it. But then if you wait for that to be confirmed, it's already too late, right? So that's why it's best to just dollar cost average, like I've always been saying. Not financial advice, but that's what I'm thinking here. So just be cautious, just be careful. There are so many reasons to be bullish. It's unbelievable. But market makers do interesting things with the liquidity they have, and they maneuver price in a way where price is still bullish, but they often, do these liquidity traps, or they want to get their orders filled or whatever. So my big hope here is that this is a 1-2. All of this is wave 3. This is wave 4, and now we're going into wave 5. And this whole thing would be a wave 3. So, yeah, let's get into the smaller time frames now and see what we can see here. So, that might be a little bit... Yeah, okay, that's... Actually, let me do the 4-hour chart first. So, the big bullish thing, right, is... I mean, we're impulsing to the upside, right? We had this impulse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We impulsed to the upside, and that's how you know it's bullish. And then you also know it's bullish by the way it reacts coming back down. It's reacting correctively, which means when you have a down-sloping channel, right, a downward channel, that typically means, right, we're bullish. And when you look at this channel, we actually broke out of the channel, which is another really awesome thing. So, I mean, you can clearly see we broke out of that. Now, the somewhat of the issue, I would say, is I wish we would have came up here and consolidated a little bit more and then broke out. We would have got a bigger leg. But this breakout came from way down here. So we had this wave, right? We deviated from the channel. We hit it perfectly on the close. We came all the way up to the mean, the middle of the channel. We pulled back, right? So from all the way from down here all the way up here was one wave, right? And this wave broke out, but it broke out from coming way down here, as opposed to coming from down here, coming back up, and then consolidating, building another base, and then breaking out. Because that breakout would have been much more powerful, right? Because you would have cooled off in here, you would have gathered steam to get this move. But this move was basically a straight shot, which tells me, yeah, you probably got some correcting to do. Now, we'll get into the smaller time frames. We might have another hit to the high. We'll see. Before a healthier correction. We ran right into this resistance. So this is going to be the biggest area for Bitcoin's life. This is the resistance of all resistance, the biggest resistance of all Bitcoin's life, and it's really the only one. So all the other resistance, from 10K to 15K to 30K to 50K, Bitcoin smashed through all of that. So now it needs one more resistance, and then it will enter into price discovery, right? Anything above 73, 74K. So it makes sense that we're pulling back in here. Now, what next? Can we pull back a little bit more? We're going to get into the small time frames. But one thing I wanted to point out here is you kind of got this little shoulder. You got this head here. Maybe we come down and we make another shoulder, right? Somewhere about right there. Something like that. I mean, that could totally be possible, right? And then what that would be is a 1-2, 1-2, right? Which would set us, a base in here, which would set us up for a big wave higher. I don't think we're just going to break out now. And the reason why, right, is because we came down from here. So this, or actually from here. So this whole wave is one wave. Yeah, we could push up a little bit more, but I think the big wave, the big breakout wave is going to happen after a base that gets formed. There's some kind of consolidation base. Let's see if there's any examples real quick here. not really in my not really examples. I got to go back to 2017, but you can see here, right, when we broke this, we actually had a little base right here before we went higher. So maybe something like that. So let's zoom in even further and see what we can find here. So if I go to the 4-hour chart, first of all, we have this beautiful inverse head and shoulders here. You know, and we didn't make it to the measured move yet, right? So I'm actually going to do it two different measurements, one from the bottom of the base and one from the inner part of the close. So you could see that one actually already met the target. This one did not, but it came relatively close. It actually came pretty close. So I would say that's sufficient enough. You know, it's right in that area. Now, we could still get another hit to the high, and we'll talk about that right now. So just like with the wave of the higher degree, you know, third waves are a little bit tricky because you got to know how many waves you got, right? So either this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that's it. We're done. And then we pull back in an ABC. Maybe we come all the way back down here and we back test. We build a base somewhere around 66K, and then we head on up. That's kind of that's the idea, right? Something like that. Now, we don't want to break below that 66K, right? So if I put a fib retracement up, the ultimate low we don't want to cross would be 62K. If we break below that, then the statistical probabilities of us breaking 56K is massively increased. So, yeah, I would say at least, you know, a 50% correction would bring us right back down to the back test level. So you could see all of this resistance in here, right? So if I just drag that out, so resistance, right? We cup into the resistance, and then bam, we broke out of the resistance. So are we going to come all the way back down and back test the resistance? Because all of these hits were resistance. If we come down and hit it, now we're officially hitting it at not as resistance, but now as support, right? And then kind of continue higher. I can totally see that. And that's sort of, you know, one of the bigger ideas. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at. And then what that would be, again, that would be a massive 1, 2, 1, 2, right? And that could get us up, you know, past 80K, I would imagine, pretty easily. 84K is my breakout target when we break this line. So about 83, 84K. Now, I'm not saying that's the all-time high, but that would be that first target to see how it reacts in that area. So that's that idea. The other idea is to say, no, that this wave isn't done yet. We have 1, 2, right? And then all of this is wave 3. Now we're in wave 4, right? And then we go up for wave 5. And then we have that back test level. But instead of coming back down and back testing down in here, like that first count, what we're actually going to do now is actually come down and back test the all-time high, or at least these highs up in here, right? So what it would be, and this is actually the one I would prefer, because then what it does is it allows the altcoins to actually have a better move, because a lot of altcoins are not back at their all-time highs, not even close. They're still very far down on their corrections, right? So we need to allow them to get some steam, right? So when we look at I guess, well, yeah, if we look at Theta, I mean, when you look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin's way about right about here, right? And Theta is way down here. So if Bitcoin can get that move and then back test, then also Theta can get back to where Bitcoin's old spot was, right? Now, either way, I think that's going to happen. The difference is how it gets there, right? So let's go back to Bitcoin here. So yeah, that would be the idea, right? So either this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we come back down here, and then we continue higher. So, you know, you have the crypto bill, right? This is the big area. We can either come down here or we go up here. So right here is the big pivot point for what the count is going to be. So, you know, the Ethereum ETF, right? The crypto bill, I mean, it should be passed. It should be passing now. Let's take a look. So I went to crypto bill passed today. It says 6 minutes ago, crypto bill passed. Ripple versus SEC. I think this is probably fake news. Yeah. Or at least it's not passed. It's just highlighting. Let's see here. But anyway, I would do this if I was recording live. But since you know, you're gonna watch this video later, we're already gonna know ahead of time, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm just scrolling through. I mean, you can pause the video and read all this. Talking about Ripple versus SEC, Judge Torres affirmed, right? I mean, XRP is not a security. That's the law of the land, right? So Bitcoin and XRP, whether you like it or not, are the only coins with regulatory clarity. I mean, so I would imagine XRP ETF is coming soon. But yeah, this is probably not really useful on this article. It's just mentioning things we already know. White House signals Biden will sign crypto market if bill passes. Yeah, nothing in here right now. So, you know, when I look at the 8-hour chart, let me flip it back. It's pretty much consolidating. It's building a base, which that's good. That's what you want, right? So the base is coming down as support. So we shot up, right? And then we stopped, and then we came down, right? We came down, and then we went sideways. So that's important, right? Because if we would have gone up like this, and then went sideways, most likely you break down, right? Because a lot of times when you have these candles, red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green candles, right? A lot of times, whatever direction the trend was going when those candles appeared, usually means a reversal. Here's kind of not a good example, but you can kind of see what I mean. You can see we went down, and then we went sideways, right? Red, green, red, green, red, green, you know, and then we broke out, right? Let's see. So going back in time, when we look at this fractal, I mean, this fractal actually played out pretty nice, right? So we can see this fractal here. I would assume you can see here when we broke out, right? We broke this resistance. Look what happened. We had a big ABC. We pulled all the way back down into this inverse head and shoulders, and then we continued higher. So I got both of them side by side. Actually, let me resize it a little bit so we can see it better. So we had, there's a couple different ways you can look at the fractal. Number one, you can say, right, obviously this is the ABC, right, ABC, and then we came up, right? So what I don't know is, are we here, right? Or I should say here. So let me size it. So, I mean, two different ways you can look at it. Number one, the price shot up and now we're going sideways in here, right? So we need to go sideways here before we break out, and that actually lines up with this resistance, and this lines up with the resistance. The other way you can say is, well, the fractal was a little bit reconfigured, right? So actually this pullback is actually this pullback here, and this ascent is actually, we're ready to go now. So so it would actually be something like that, right? So from a time perspective, we should have already been correcting here. So maybe, right, this correction on the fractal was for the Bitcoin price, but just way down here, right? Or that this correction is barely starting now and we have something like this, right? Where it's going to take, you know, another month or 2 months, right? So you can see, right, we go sideways for a little while, we come down, we play around, and then we break out. So two different ways you can look at it. The other way, obviously, is something like that, right, where this area here lines up, and now we're on this move up. But it just, I don't know. Either way, it kind of looks like it needs a little bit of consolidation, because regardless of this move in the middle, I mean, the length from here up matches up with the length here up with the fractal, and that length gave us this correction. So yeah, that's kind of what we see there. We'll see how that plays out. It honestly looks bearish right now. It seems like it wants to break to the downside. That's just the way it looks right now. I could be wrong, right? Because if this is going to be a micro wave 4, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, and all of this is 4, 5. We really need this support to hold right here. If it doesn't hold, then we know this was the top of wave 5, and now we have a much bigger correction. So it would probably be something like we come down, we back test down here, we'll come back up like this, and then finish it out, and then continue like that. And that would kill some time, get everybody bearish again, right? So we'll just kind of a wait and see moment for the price of Bitcoin. XRP, you know, XRP is just, you know, when I look at that, it kind of looks like it needs a bounce. You know, you came down, right? Here's your low, and then you shot up and you came all the way back down. But look, you actually held the low, and now you're kind of going sideways in here. So either this is consolidating through time, getting ready to dump, or it's maybe hashing out a base up here, getting ready for a retrace. Very tough to know right now how this is going to play. It just doesn't look finished to me, though. It just seems like it needs more. Unless this is a flat A, B, and then we have C, right? So we have 1, 2, all of this is wave 3, wave 4, and now we're going down for wave 5. But it'd be awful big, so I'm not really a fan of it. I mean, you could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And now we're going in an A wave. We come up for B, come back down for C, and then we go. But it's looking rather bearish right now. I mean, it looks like it wants to dump. You can see on the small time frame on the 5-minute, yeah, it looks like we're going to break the low. This was a bear flag. We came down, we went into a bear flag, and now it looks like we're going to dump. So, not what we wanted to see, but I think it needs it. I think it needs another dump. QNT, I mean, QNT, how that looked like it was finished, right? You had this ABC, and then you had this diagonal. It looked like it was ready, right? But it was actually ABC, ABC, ABC. It's a triple correction, right? So this whole thing becomes ABC, which got us right back down here to the base, which I can't really see us going any lower than that unless it's a real reversal. So we'll have to wait and see about that. SHIB, I mean, kind of looks like it needs to come down and retest this trend line here. I mean, I look at Ethereum and, you know, it's basically just consolidating sideways. And then also, right, Theta as well. So far I have a 3-wave move, and that's a 1, 2. I mean, is this going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Some type of bigger correction, could be. The price of Theta, I mean, Theta is still winning, right? I mean, it looks pretty bearish right now. It's just kind of consolidating here. That's usually what happens on bottoms and tops, because if I flip it upside down, right, it kind of looks like it needs to go back up, right? It needs to have a correction back to the downside, right? Which is, you know, exactly what we talked about. It's not what we wanted to see, but we did talk about that situation where we come back down. All right, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? We have a 5-wave move. So it doesn't surprise me that we would come all the way back down somewhere over here, right? Before taking off. Maybe it might be deep, maybe it'll be shallow, but one thing's for sure, we ran right into this resistance. So either we're going to trend sideways, break out, or pull back, back test, then break out. If we lose this back test line, then we're probably got much more lower prices to go. But yeah, at the moment it doesn't look too pretty here. Filecoin. obviously we broke above this. I would like to see us stay above that trend line. So maybe this is just bullish consolidation, right? I mean, technically we did back test this area already, so maybe that's all it needed, right? Did it back test it? Yeah, it back tested it, right? And it has a nice, somewhat of a three-wave shape, right? We have 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, right? And this is 1, 2, right? Maybe this is a 1, 2, and we get 3, 4, 5, right? We get the hell out of here. Either that, or this is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we still have one more correction. That's always the tough part, right? Because when you're in the middle of the retracement levels, when you're sort of consolidating, you really have to just wait for a better signal. But at the moment, it looks like it needs to come down. But maybe we get a bounce first, then come down. The guy who created the Bollinger Bands actually said that we need a correction. So, I mean, he's the Bollinger Band guy. I mean, he created that indicator, and he's saying we probably need a correction. So, we'll see about that. I mean, as of now, Bitcoin is still holding support right here. Right? If I flip it upside down, are we going to break through here? We'll see. Total 3. I mean, when I look at total 3, though, it actually looks bullish. That's why I'm a little bit because look at this. Right? We came up, and it actually looks like it's creating some type of bull flag here. Right? Some type of down sloping channel. Right? One thing I don't like is you can notice, this is kind of how you know. So you see the bottoms, see how they're sharp reversals? The bottom is a sharp reversal, sharp reversal, sharp reversal, right? But then when you look at the tops, they're more rounded. They're more rounded. They're more rounded, right? That's how you kind of... Now, what does that mean? That's kind of how you know, like, we're... I would imagine more bearish because it's more... It seems like there's a lot of distribution happening here. So when we get down here, it does get bought up quick. But then there's distribution, 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 distribution. Right? So it just seems like, you know, they're distributing. So if we come down 1, 2, 3, I wonder if we get another bounce out of here. Right? Hold some support and then continue higher. So it's going to come down to, I would imagine, this week. We should have an answer. So we'll see. I wish I could be a little bit more helpful. Let's see. The dollar. I mean, the dollar looks short-term bullish. I mean, this is not what we wanted, right? The dollar bounced off the bull market support band. Right? It built a base here, and it broke out of that base. So that's not really good for crypto. So if I put the retracement on, hopefully we get stalled out. I would imagine we find some resistance here at the 618, 702, even the 50. But yeah, I still want to see this as 5 waves down, a 3-way pullback, and now we have 5. We get another 3-way pullback, and then continue down. That would be nice to see for crypto. Theta versus Bitcoin, finding resistance. You can see these doji candles up here starting to find resistance. We only have 3 waves, right? We got 1, 2, 3. Looks very 3-wave-ish. I want to see this flag out and hit the high. I mean, that would be really nice to see. And then we can get an ABC correction back down to this line here, and then hopefully continue higher. If not, then I would imagine this comes back down in 3. So, you know, you got 3, 3, 3, 3. It's just, you know, correcting 3s at a time. Theta Fuel. Now, Theta Fuel looks actually bullish, believe it or not. I mean, it actually looks good. So that's interesting. Still looks relatively bullish. Now, it doesn't really mean anything if Bitcoin comes down, right? I mean, you have this nice shoulder, a head, and a shoulder, right? You attempted to break out, but you kind of got stuck there. So I'm wondering if this is some type of flat pattern. Let's look a little bit closer. Huh. Looks like we had a flat, expanded flat, or this is part of a bigger flat where we come up, maybe come back down. Part of a bigger flat. So it'd be A, B, C. It could be a running flat or an expanded flat. Maybe. Let's see. Zoom out a little bit. I would really watch this trend line here and see if that breaks. But the good thing about Theta Fuel is there's so much wiggle room. I mean, you got tons of wiggle room. You can fall literally 30+% and still be very bullish. That's how crazy Theta Fuel is. So, you know, we'll see how that plays out. It's a little bit challenging, right? Because this wave structure is getting more difficult, but I'm still looking at it as a flat, and I would like to see this be a 1, 2, right? And now we're setting up for a 1. We're flagging out for wave 2, and hopefully get that breakout, right? And then this flat would have played out. Maybe we have to come down a lot further without breaking this low. I just don't want this low to break to keep that ABC intact. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say. Litecoin, not really helpful. I mean, a lot of coins are already back to their little back test area. So we really want them to hold support, right? You come up, you build support, you break out. You come back down, you back test the support, building on it, and continuing. Total market cap looks pretty good. You know, it's flagging out here, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, I don't like these humps, though. These little humps. It just seems like it needs to go down. So maybe a 50% correction from this wave. So if I put the Fibonacci up here, I mean, we're still very high up on this wave. So, you know, maybe somewhere down here, right? We'll see. But that'll do it. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Remember, not financial advice. If you can, please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think the crypto bill is going to pass? Do you think Ethereum's going to have an effect? Do you think we're going to pull back? Or do you think this is just flagging out for another high? Because, you know, some of it, I would say I'm more 75% leaning like a bigger pullback, or at least a little bit bigger than we've got, and then 25% saying, yeah, it's probably going to flag out and continue higher. But if I had to guess, I would say we have a little bit more downside to go. Take it easy. Cheers.